Hello and welcome to the Papyrus Global Television News Update. I am Christiana Babayo. Here are today's headlines. Middle East conflict escalation triggers global alarm over war threats and oil disruption. Trump war threat sparks global backlash over crimes allegation and instability concerns. US El Salvador deportation deal sparks human rights concerns and immigration policy debate. UK considers banning Kanye West over extremist rhetoric and public safety concerns. Brazil sanctions Chinese automaker BYD over labor violations and diplomatic tensions. Ukraine conflict civilian toll rises amid Russian drone attacks and international outrage. International condemnation of Israel's death penalty law sparks human rights concerns. Nato allies split over US-Israel war strategy and European military rifts. UK health services trained as resident doctors strike over pay and training. And now the news in details. The Middle East faces unprecedented tensions as hostilities among the United States, Iran and Israel intensify. US President Donald Trump issued an ultimatum on April 6 demanding that Iran reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz, threatening strikes on Iranian power grids, bridges and industrial facilities. Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and President Ibrahim Raisi rejected the demands, warning of severe and irreversible retaliation. Missile exchanges reportedly affected Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, causing civilian casualties and damage near oil facilities. The United Nations and humanitarian organizations, including the International Committee of the Red Cross, are urging restraint amid soaring oil prices and heightened cyber attacks targeting regional infrastructure. President Donald Trump's statement threatening strikes on Iranian infrastructure have been criticized by legal experts, U.S. lawmakers, and human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. Observers warn that targeting civilian infrastructure could violate the Geneva Conventions. Iranian leaders Ali Khamenei and Ibrahim Raisi condemned the threats as reckless and provocative, heightening tensions and undermining diplomatic efforts led by European mediators. A reported agreement between the United States and El Salvador tied to President Nayib Bukele's anti-gang crackdown has drawn criticism. Deportees from the U.S., some linked to gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18, are reportedly being placed in El Salvador's high-security facilities, including the Terrorism Confinement Center, raising fears of arbitrary detention and human rights violation. U.S. lawmakers are seeking transparency while the United Nations emphasizes adherence to international law. The UK government, led by Home Secretary Suella Braverman, is reviewing options to prevent rapper Kanye West from entering the country ahead of the Glastonbury Festival in Somerset. West's anti-Semitic remarks and praise of extremist ideology have alarmed advocacy groups, including the Board of Deputies of British Jews and the Community Security Trust, prompting a national debate over free expression and public safety. The Brazilian government, under President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, added BYD Company Ltd to a national registry of companies accused of labor abuses described as akin to slavery, affecting plants in São Paulo and Bahia. The move has sparked diplomatic tension with China and raised concerns over the global electric vehicle supply chain. BYD rejected the characterization and promised internal review and compliance with Brazilian labor laws. Russian drone strikes targeted residential areas, hospitals and infrastructure in Kharkiv, Zaporizhia and Dnipro, killing at least 63 civilians. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the attacks as targeting innocents, while Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu claimed the strikes were aimed at military infrastructure. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and EU High Representative Joseph Borrell denounced the attacks, emphasizing compliance with international law. Israel's Knesset passed a law on April 5th allowing capital punishment for Palestinians accused of terrorism. Justice Minister Gideon Saar defended it as a security measure. The law has drawn condemnation from Turkey, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the UAE, as well as the UN, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas called it a grave human rights violation. Analysts warn it could escalate tensions in the West Bank and Gaza. Tensions are rising within Nato as France, Spain, and Italy limit support for US operations assisting Israel. France denied overflight rights, Spain closed airspace, and Italy restricted base access. French Minister of Armed Forces Sébastien Lecornu and Italian Defense Minister Guido Crosetto stressed prioritizing civilian safety. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan expressed frustration over operational limitations. Analysts warn that the divide may undermine NATO cohesion as the conflict intensifies. And that brings us to the end of the Papyrus Global Television World News Update. Before we go, a recap of our main stories. Middle East conflict escalation triggers global alarm over war threats and oil disruption. Trump war threats spark global backlash over crimes allegation and instability concerns. U.S. El Salvador deportation deal sparks human rights concerns and immigration policy debates. UK considers banning Kanye West over extremist rhetoric and public safety concerns. Brazil sanctions Chinese automaker BYD over labor violations and diplomatic tensions. Ukraine conflict civilian toll rises amid Russian drone attacks and international outrage. International condemnation of Israel's death penalty law sparks human rights concerns. NATO allies split over US-Israel war strategy and European military rifts. UK health services trained as resident doctors strike over pay and training. For continuous updates, expert analysis and live coverage, stay connected with the Papyrus Global Television. Visit papyrusdaily.com for breaking news and detailed reports. I am your host, Christiana Babayo. Thank you for joining us. Stay safe and informed.